The Star and D'Amico Show brought to you by cheapesttshirts.ca. Need blanks for your next event or club? Check out cheapesttshirts.ca. No minimum order, free shipping over $350. Same day shipping on lots of items. Affordable, Canadian, ready to print your design. Brought to you by Catherine Prince at Remax Platine, your Montreal real estate connection. Call her at 514-702-2474 or email Catherine with a K, Catherine at catherineprince.com. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest with confidence, Catherine Prince, your key to the city's property market. Brought to you by McLean's Pub. Looking for a lively downtown spot with great food and atmosphere? Come to McLean's Pub on Peel Street. Classic pub eats, plenty of beer, and all the sports on all the screens. Grab your friends and make McLean's your go-to place tonight. Brought to you by Cabletel, your full-service telecom partner for business and home. From structured cabling and phone systems to Wi-Fi, cameras, and alarms, Cabletel keeps you connected, secure, and performing at your best. Your partner for the future. It's Cabletel. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for being with us. We got lots to get to today. As always, I want you to take care of your pet because I love taking care of mine, and I let Little Bear and Chuck and Evie and their all-star staff help me with my decisions, whether it's food, toys, treats. They don't push an agenda. They've got the best brands, the best prices, and support local. Is a family-owned business on St. Catherine in Westmount, across from Westmount Square. You can find more details online. Visit them at littlebearonline.com. Curbside pickup, online delivery, you name it. A big reason why, and big supporters of this show. We're big supporters of trade speculation, my friend. If we riff off our earlier episode to kick off the week, I am. Anyways, I'll speak for myself. When it comes to the Canadiens' depth at center and the Michael Hage question mark, does that change everything for the Habs and their 2C plans? What about the timeline here? What about the timeline of the bottom feeding teams in the National Hockey League? Is there enough evidence here before we hit the 20-game marker that we can already start cherry picking teams that might be targeted for transactions? Or are we still a little premature in looking at teams bottoming out and figuring out whether or not they are credibly targets for acquisition?
Well, listen, I'm always of the ilk that there's teams that can always turn it around, right? We've seen it before. The Montreal Canadiens were dead last year this time, and they made the playoffs,
Yeah.
right? So it always happens. But
Yeah.
you have to observe the trends. Like the Canadiens were clearly underperforming. They needed to change some things around. But they had a young team. Again, they were the youngest team in the NHL at the time as well.
Mm.
However, you look at a team like the Calgary Flames. Calgary Flames don't have like outside of Zane Perek, they don't really have like an NHL's top prospect, right? Like Cole Reshny is doing well in the NCAA, Colin Potter as well, but they don't really have like the high end prospect.
Right.
And especially at forward, they're very old at forward. Backlund, Huberdeau, Kadri, uh, Blake Coleman. Like I can go on. They've been trying to do this reset on the fly with Craig Conroy, but for all intents and purposes, right now, they're at the bottom of the NHL standings, right? They're dead last at the moment of this recording. And, as much as Flames ownership is saying that they don't want to they don't want to do heavy surgery to this team, I don't know how you can't at this point take advantage of the fact that there is a massive draft coming up.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, the Calgary Flames amateur scouting staff, led by a brother of Craig Button, um, they're working double time because
Mm-hmm.
the 2026 draft at the top is going to be very interesting, and there are some superstar available prospects that are going to be available there, and there is a significant chance that the Calgary Flames could have more than one first round pick. We know that Rasmus Anderson is going to ask out. We know
Yep.
this. Like this is
We've been
already,
waiting. Yeah.
yeah, it's going to happen. It's a question of when.
Yeah.
But then becomes the question of trading other guys out, like Uyghur. You look at Kadri, you look at Backlund, you look at I doubt they trade Backlund just because, but Kadri is the big piece there. Blake Coleman, can they find a way to get him out? But that's a team that's ticking right now that I believe come, before the December trade freeze, the expectation is that there should be some movement out of Calgary because this is simply unsustainable. They cannot keep playing this way. And this is the team, in my opinion, this is exactly what they were last year. But the difference between last year and this year is that Dustin Wolf isn't saving their bacon
Yes,
with
precisely.
Vezina level performances. And so when a goalie comes back down to earth, I think we saw that in Montreal with Montembeault in the month of October. When a goalie comes back down to earth, it exposes the true problem, which
Mhm.
was they lacked offensive depth, offensive quality, and defensive structure in their team. So it leads them to this situation. The Calgary Flames, to me, are a prime blow it up candidate at this point.
If we expand on that, there's some thinking around the NHL that someone like Jordan Kyrou may, as my mom used to say, "I've
Mm,
had it up to here with you, Sean," and she points to way over her head, that Jordan Kyrou may be tired of being air quote the whipping boy. And when things go wrong, he's the odd man out. We saw and we spoke about this last week on the show. Healthy
mhm.
scratch by Jim Montgomery in St. Louis. I don't, Robert Thomas is a pipe dream, right? But we're talking about a bottom feeding St.
No,
Louis Blues
no,
team,
yeah,
right? I mean, Jordan Kyrou. I had a friend text me Saturday night. What do you think about Braden Shen? Right? And talk about an older player, good for 20
yeah.
goals a season, can play the wing, can play down the middle. How legitimate are the St. Louis Blues as one of the bottom feeding teams that we can look at and say, okay, there's a couple of pieces there. Are they a prime trade target team right now?
Yeah, well, I had an NHL executive tell. I wrote an article about this, maybe 10 days ago, where an NHL executive told me to watch out for the St. Louis Blues because this is simply unsustainable,
Right.
and their core is too old to be this bad, and so
Hmm.
they're a team that's been undergoing like a soft retool over the last 3 4 years. Well, Doug Armstrong may have to kick it up a notch at this point because they don't outside of Dvorsky, and you can make maybe the case for Justin Carbonneau, there's not much elite talent coming up anywhere. And there's a lot of good defensemen. Like this is very much a defense heavy draft that's coming up in 2026, led by Keaton Verhoff, who is having one heck of a season for North Dakota in the NCAA. But ultimately, you have guys. This is the reason why they were comfortable trading Zachary Bolduc is because they have
Right.
an excess of wingers coming up, and that's where a guy like Jordan Kyrou could become expendable. Does that necessarily link him to Montreal? I don't believe that they would be the only team interested by a long shot. Kairou's name was brought up in talks with the Buffalo Sabres last summer, in talks with the New York Islanders before Noah Dobson narrowed down his choices to Eastern Conference teams only. So definitely like a player that was discussed. Now he has a full no trade clause. So if they move him, it's to a place that Cairo is going to be comfortable going to if they move him. Rob Thomas, not an option. Even if they're blowing it up, Rob Thomas is staying there. I sincerely doubt they're going to break it down to that level. It's extremely hard. We know this
Yeah.
in Montreal. It's extremely hard to find a number one center, and when you do, you never let them go. When you look at that, I doubt it. Braden Shen, absolutely going to be on the trade market. Absolute bank on it. You could take that to the bank. He will not finish the season as a St. Louis Blue if this continues. And there will be a lot of teams interested. I don't necessarily see the fit with Montreal just because I think he has the right style, but I think it's not the right time for a player like him in the sense that,
Yeah.
his offensive production has really started to dip, so I don't necessarily see it there.
Mhm.
But that's a team that I would expect is going to be very active in trying to right the wrongs in a similar fashion to the way we saw the Nashville Predators do it last year.
I'm glad you brought up Nashville, right? I mean, Ryan O'Reilly as their number one center, Eric Howla, Michael McCarron there rounding up the depth as the fourth line. I'm always happy for Michael McCarron that he found a nice home there, considering what I
Yeah.
thought was a very situational draft choice when the previous regime chose him in the first round. But it is what it is, right? But say when you talk about Braden Shen, I kind of apply that logic to Ryan O'Reilly. Just the timeline where the Canadians are at with some of their whether it's Kapanen or Kirby Doc. Because it was to me, I look at Buffalo and I look at Nashville. as two teams that I look at their rosters like, can the Canadians do business with either of these two teams? And I think as an outside observer, I find it more appealing to look at Buffalo than I do Nashville today.
Appealing to who though? Appealing to the Canadians or
I mean,
appealing
yeah,
in the general to the trade market?
well, more so towards the Canadians. I mean,
I don't
I think
find
Nashville's going to make some decisions here for sure, more than Buffalo will.
yeah, I don't find it's necessarily for the Canadians. I think again, Ryan O'Reilly is the kind of player you trade for as a stopgap. If you're 100% sure you got someone coming up that's going to be a
Agreed.
2C,
And that's not
right?
the Hats right now.
I don't think that's necessarily the Habs. They're still trying to figure out if Michael Hage is going to be a center at the NHL level.
Right.
They're still trying to figure out if Kirby Doc is going to be a legitimate 2C,
Yeah.
et cetera, right? So,
Yeah.
like, there's a lot of ifs, and I don't think the Canadians can work on ifs. If we've seen their trades, they've gone for, you know, like bets, surer bets, and I think that's the key. So when you look at Nashville, Ryan O'Reilly, I could see it. I could see it, right? But
Mhm.
again, he's only going to be traded to a team he wants to go and play for. So there's that. And then when it comes to, his efficacy, he signed for another year after this season. After that, it's done. And again, he was drafted in '09, so he's going to be 35 at the end of the season. How many years does he have left? He's
Right.
already not the fastest skater. I don't think that makes sense for a team like Montreal. You know who that makes sense for? Teams that are close to the cap, that are contending, that need a center right now. I'm looking at teams like Florida. I'm looking at teams like, well, I mean, not Toronto because obviously, but I'm looking at teams like the Mammoth that maybe want a high end third line center. We're looking at New Jersey. New Jersey could use a guy like him because they want to compete now. Those are the teams. I just don't see Montreal and Nashville being good trade partners when it comes to a center.
So Calgary seems to be, I mean, if you're, to put a dollar on this,
Mhm.
Calgary seems to be the team here that is most likely going to be targeted and maybe the first to kind of act if we go back to the
Not
draft coming
necessarily.
up.
Not
Who's that team then?
necessarily.
Who's the team?
The San Jose Sharks are going to be a team to watch as well.
Yeah.
I think the Sharks went and got Carey Price's contract and Ryan Ellis's contract so that they had the insurance to make trades early, right? Because you accrue cap space throughout the year, right? And the Canadian, like the San Jose Sharks, aren't using LTR, so they're paying these guys. They're doing their cap space business. But if they trade $10 million in salary at the trade deadline, they never really needed Carey Price's contract in the first place because they didn't really spend those real dollars, or they
Mm,
didn't lose those real dollars off their salary. They paid it for 75% of the season, 80% of the season, if they only decide to trade them at the trade deadline. Trading for Carey Price's contract and Ryan Ellis's contract gave them the flexibility to make trades early. And I don't think that they were accounting for how bad the St. Louis Blues,
mm.
Minnesota Wild, and Calgary Flames were going to be this season. And so if they really want to finish last again, or they want to finish as low as possible, trading off assets earlier may make more sense. And one of the guys that they have is Alex Wenberg, who I know is generating some interest as well. So there is an and I'm not saying this is an option for the Canadians, but there's an option on the rental market that could make a lot of sense. And the team, in my opinion, that's really like, trying to figure it out, teetering, not necessarily sure what's happening here. The Buffalo Sabres
Ex-
again,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
again, even though at the moment of this recording, they're at 500. The one thing is they're without Josh Norris, and Rasmus Dahlin has now taken a leave of absence.
Yeah.
And they were already not
Yeah. To be with
doing
his
super
wife or,
well.
yeah. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And, hopefully the recovery goes really well
I
and
mean, I'm
things
shocked
are
Josh Norris is not available personally. I'm just shocked.
yeah, well, I mean,
Sarcasm. He's always hurt.
yeah, yeah. So it is what it is. But again,
Yeah.
you look at the Buffalo Sabres, we heard at the beginning of the season, Rasmus Dahlin, Tage Thompson. These are
Yeah.
guys that
Mhm.
potentially would look to go elsewhere. We're obviously going to do a little bit more digging on that, but these are teams that wanted to see results. We're not seeing results in Buffalo right now.
Hmm.
Is that a potential tipping point? And I would wager that if that happened, half the league, if not more, would be in on that.
Oh, oh, for
Half the
sure.
league, if not more.
Yeah, it's
But
good.
that, if you're the Buffalo Sabres, what's the biggest difference is that most contending teams don't have the young assets in the NHL already to give you so that you don't have to undergo a full rebuild. Well, the Montreal
Mhm.
Canadiens have two high performing right shot centers right now that the
Correct.
Buffalo Sabres would more than love to add to their lineup. So there is an opportunity as well if the Buffalo Sabres are involved. This is not a trade rumor. This is not inside information, but the Canadiens were very involved in Dylan Cousins trade talks. And if Tage Thompson ever hit market, you best believe that they would be on that as well, rightfully so, with half the league involved. And then the rest of the league right now is in full parity mode. There are basically 15 teams
Yes.
between 14 and 18 points at the moment of this recording. There's only one, two, three, four teams at the moment of this recording with 20 or more points through 14 or 15 games. They are the Avalanche, Devils, Canadiens, and Pittsburgh Penguins. Bye bye, Crosby Dreams.
You son of a. That's how you end this? Bye bye, Crosby Dreams. Booth. Now I encourage people to throw tomatoes at you. I'm kidding, of course. You can follow Marco
I'll
D'Amico
make
at
pasta sauce.
yeah. I'm hungry. Follow at Marco D'Amico and make sure you go back if you haven't read it already. His piece on Michael Hage and Michigan out of the Big Ten doing some heavy lifting as a team and individually speaking. Marco, thanks as always. Looking forward to seeing you at Maison Publique McLean's on November 17th. And then, of course, back Sunday morning live at 10 a.m. Marco, thanks, man.
No problem, guys.